This documentary series showcases the work of the Coalition Youth Collective in Maplewood and South Orange, New Jersey, as they interview local artists who share their talents and their experiences during the pandemic and recurring racial injustices. We hope that viewers gain insight on how art keeps us whole as individuals and as a community.
It meant a lot to me for my work to be published first in the Washington Post, and I'll say why, because literally the Washington Post Sunday magazine was the first place I'd ever placed an essay. But the piece that came out last year during the pandemic, it meant a lot to me because I was very anxious, especially in the first 6 months of the pandemic, extraordinarily anxious during the first 2-3 months. I write and I perform, and I have created a one-woman show, and the theater was completely closed. And I didn't even think about writing. I didn't even think about it because it was all about survival and making sure our family of 4 and my parents and my husband's parents were all healthy and safe. As time moved on, and there were things that I felt compelled to do, like write the article in June of 2020 and submit it because I was so angry. I was just so angry. Then I had to keep moving forward, and I felt like the moment called for it. So for me to share my story about Target calling the police on my son who hugged an employee, that was a big deal. It was very much about my children. It was very much about race and police activity, which was, in May and June of last year with the murder of George Floyd, our whole country was really on high alert and opening their eyes finally to what was going on. And I was very fearful actually about the reaction because I have 2 sons, they're both extraordinary. And I really want to protect them, and I think it's really important not just for me to write about my son and autism, but also to expose him to others, so that he learns, but then that society, the world at large, learns about what he is, who he is, and how to accommodate him. As a kid, I always felt like the world was so big and so wide, and I looked forward to grasping it and grabbing it and, being involved in everything. When I went to Yale, there was a lot of people who were wealthy, and I had been successful in high school and middle school. And so I just felt like I was just as good as anybody else. It doesn't matter how much money you have. I feel like because it's one of the leading institutions, or universities, it's really important to have voices of color be active, to be involved, and to help bring other voices to the table. I don't know if the quarantine made me question my identity, but I will say that the quarantine made me think about the other parts of my identity beyond being a mother, especially when it comes to my storytelling. I think that because I was literally parenting 24 hours a day, that there is a sense of eagerness, maybe even desperation, to be the other parts of yourself. And when you don't have that opportunity, you want it even more. And it also helped me think about what are the stories that I want to tell outside of my family. Because I was mothering all the time, it made me think about what are the other aspects of who I am. And those are the stories that I'm ready to tell at this point. I also happen to have an MBA. And so I was contracted with an organization that saw my piece about Target, and they asked me to do some work related to that. So I did some consulting work, and it was great to use the other parts of my just my brain and my creativity to sort of dive deep into that work. Do the thing that you're most passionate about right this minute, because the older you get, sometimes the harder it gets, because you have other responsibilities, whether it's to family or to whatever. If you're able to eat and sleep and get shelter, like once you have that, like just go for the things that you're most passionate about. And let that drive you. Let it drive you, and don't be afraid of it.